work of art that I thought was probably the most influenced by the New Left and the 1960s counterculture was Harry Potter. The Harry Potter series, you look at that, I mean, it just, the whole thing reeks of the New Left, right? And the evidence is there too, right? J.K. Rowling marched against the Vietnam War, marched for civil rights. Her hero is Jessica Mitford, the Communist Party member and journalist who ran away from home to go fight in Spain and then moved to the United States to become this, this muckraker journalist who exposed all kinds of wrongdoing. But if you look at Harry Potter, right, so you've got the Dursley family are these uptight working class people that are racist and bigoted and love the death penalty and love corporal punishment and are just these awful caricatures of like middle class awful racist British, I don't know what you want to call it, middle suburban British culture, conservatives, right? So Harry Potter breaks out of that, and the place he finds as his home is a place full of people with long hair and beards who do lots of magic. And then, of course, in the wizarding world, who are the villains? Well, they're a group of people that are racist, are bigoted against people who don't have magic in their blood, who dress in black all the time and are trying to restore the old order. And they have, I believe at one point, they're dressed like the Ku Klux Klan, and they wear, they're the Death Eaters, and they wear hoods over their faces. And then, of course, let's not forget that who are the heroes of the Harry Potter saga? Well, they're all students, and the way that they fight for justice is by breaking the rules and sneaking out at night and sneaking around. And at one point, they form an underground student army, Dumbledore's army. You can almost look at that as like the Weathermen or SDS or something like that. And that it's very much a New Left kind of influenced fairy tale. Now,
which is funny, by the way, because I read Dumbledore's army in retrospect as Antifa, and
that's
like
more modern,
Yeah. It's more modern. Yeah, but J.K. Rowling came out against Antifa because she's a liberal.
Well, she came out against Jeremy Corbyn. She's much more conservative, I guess. I get the impression she was more of a leftist in her younger days, based on what she has said about herself. But we don't know. I mean, you never really know. And that especially when people become famous after not being famous for most of their life story gets rewritten by marketing firms to make them appealing. And who knows? And, I do know that she's a harsh critic of Jeremy Corbyn and thinks Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic and is kind of all over the place. But if you look at the Harry Potter genre, though, right? I mean, it very much, I think about the house elves when you got Hermione trying to organize the house elves for their rights, and they tell her to go screw herself. Basically, they don't want to be organized. That reeks of, you read about the new communist movement and these these communists who are wealthy college kids get a job in a factory, an auto plant, or a steel mill, and they're trying to sell their coworkers, the Daily Worker or the communist newspaper, and get them to understand they're being exploited by this big company, and their coworkers just don't want to hear it. That seems to be like the tragedy of trying to build a communist movement during the booming economy of the 1960s and 70s in the United States. So I see the New Left all over it. I think that Harry Potter, though, it has new meaning. It was a little bit ahead of its time because the New Right really blossomed after the books had been published, right? Now, there was a little bit of a precursor to it. The British National Party, which was like a white nationalist party in Britain, actually got elected and had seats long before we had any of the stuff going on over here, like years before Charlottesville or anything like that. So Britain, perhaps she could have seen what was coming. But like you said, I guess she came out against Antifa, but it's pretty clear that the villains are racists. There's no question about that. Harry Potter.
The villains are definitely fascists. J.K. Rowling understands that the enemy is fascism. She doesn't understand what fascism is or how it works. She has a vague idea of it. And you can actually see it if you watch The Crimes of Grindelwald. Like Fantastic Beasts, that movie was phenomenal. I actually, like, a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was excellent. I really, really enjoyed Fantastic Beasts. And then The Crimes of Grindelwald came out. I was very excited to see it. And oh God, it's so bad. It feels like you're watching the movie, and it feels like you're watching a movie and like you're stepping out of the room for every other scene, and then you come back and you're like, hey, what's going on? But you haven't stepped out of the room. So like, but there's a complete and utter, she's trying to build a fascist movement in it, and as the primary antagonists, and like the way she builds the fascist movement is completely incoherent. And I really think it's just because she has a very liberal understanding. There's a certain places her brain just will not go. Right. And sadly, it led to what could have been like one of the best series since Harry Potter, kind of just crashing and burning in the second movie.